how the ancillary services are sort of getting evolved with the payroll, and what kind of additional services is being expected out of provider, and are they still considering a single provider for all their payroll services requirements?
I think multi-country payroll generally tends to be tied at the hip with services, right? So although there is a technology component with the platform coming in, the benefits of multi-country payroll really come to bear when complemented by services, right? From those around compliance and regulation to gross to net, last mile tax filings, advanced analytics, and so on. Now, there are other ancillary services, of course, and these may be sought outside of the payroll construct itself, but increasingly we are seeing some of these being clubbed or included in multi-country payroll contracts. So these include things like expense management. You have services like expat payroll and shadow payroll. Additionally, some of the more mature firms today also seek value from different kind of solutions which fall in the same sphere of payroll, but it's somewhat further removed, right? These are value-added solutions. So these include things like financial wellness. Generally, it's tied to payroll and benefits. So you can have apps, for instance, that promote financial wellness, including budgeting tools, decision support mechanisms for investments, and so on. On-demand pay, and these are generally enabled through digital wallets, and they provide the ability to access funds already earned as and when the employee chooses. Now, often tied to digital wallets, we also find marketplaces, right? And these are usually to enable purchases related to wellness, like you have add-on health insurance, etc. So net-net, there's a whole ecosystem of apps and services developing around core payroll solutions itself. This is not to say that it's necessarily the norm today, but you can see why as we switch to an increasingly digital world, adoption of these will also likely increase.
Jessica, how do you see this from an end user organization, and what are your sort of likely demands around the payroll services?
Sure, maybe I'll start with some of the more, I guess, basic or traditional payroll services. I guess I was quite surprised to find out when we started our journey and we started looking country by country, what services do they currently utilize, how do they currently manage their payrolls. And actually, there's various parts of the payroll process that they'd outsourced or kept in-house. So from money movement services to actually paying the employees. Some countries were using vendor support for that, although as a bank where we have retail presence, that wasn't as necessary. Lodgement services, so physically filing relevant payroll declarations with authorities. Again, that varied because on the ground in certain locations, you might physically need to go to the local authorities to hand those in. So certain provinces in China. And query management, I mean, that's something that we hear a lot when we're speaking to our countries, that something that vendors could help with, payroll query management. So I think those were kind of the traditional ancillary services. Then looking to the future, that analytics functionality, I think that would be the big win for us if we only had one multi-country payroll vendor. You'd have access to all of that data in one place. Now, for us and probably a lot of organizations, you could access pre-payroll data, perhaps yourselves, you could amalgamate that. But it's very hard for us, and I imagine other organizations, to access post-payroll data. We don't have a consolidated repository of that information. And at the moment, we've got a handful of vendors, so we would need to go kind of vendor to vendor to build up that global picture. And we also explored looking at our finance records and group finance, but we didn't find that had enough granularity to really be able to paint a good analytics picture. So it's in our strategy over the next 4 or 5 years that we're really working on bringing that analytics function together.